The first time Commander Elias Varn saw the alien kneel, he thought it was a mistake. Not a tactical misstep. Not fear. Something deeper, something impossible. Because the beings of Kelries did not kneel. They ruled. The war had lasted 9 years, for months and 12 days. Humanity called it the expansion conflict. The Kelries called it something that translated loosely to correction. They had arrived without warning, vast ships tearing through the void like silent blades, and in a matter of weeks, they had crushed Earth's outer defenses. They weren't just stronger. They were precise. Every strike calculated. Every loss acceptable. Every victory inevitable. And yet, here Elias stood, deep within a captured Kelries command vessel, watching one of their highest-ranking warriors drop to one knee before him. "I yield," she said. Her voice was low, melodic, and carried the faintest echo, as if it existed slightly out of sync with reality itself. Elias tightened his grip on the pulse rifle in his hands. That's not how this works. Behind him, his squad shifted uneasily. They had fought through corridors lined with bioluminescent veins, past soldiers who moved like living weapons. They had lost 2 men already. Nothing about this felt right. The alien slowly lifted her head. Her eyes, silver, glowing faintly, locked onto his. "You are Elias Varn," she said. It wasn't a question. Elias felt a chill crawl up his spine. "And you are surrendering." "Yes." That's not an answer. It is the only one that matters. Her name was Sareth Kale, High Executor of the 3rd Expansion Fleet, a title that, according to intercepted data, meant she was responsible for the annihilation of at least 3 human colonies. Elias had expected a monster. What he saw instead unsettled him more. She was tall, nearly his height, with a form that was almost human but subtly wrong. Her skin shimmered faintly, like liquid metal under dim light. The armor she wore seemed grown rather than forged, shifting slightly with every movement. And yet, she knelt. Still. Unmoving. "Commander," Lieutenant Harris whispered, stepping closer. "This is a trap." "Probably," Elias muttered. Sareth spoke again. "If I intended harm, you would already be dead." Harris raised his weapon. "Yeah? Prove it." Sareth extended one hand slowly. The lights flickered, then dimmed, then went out completely. For a brief moment, the ship plunged into darkness. Then just as suddenly the lights returned. Harris staggered back. "What the hell?" "I control this vessel," Sareth said calmly. "Every system. Every defense." Elias felt his pulse quicken. "You could have killed us," he said. "Yes. But you didn't." "No." "Why?" There was a pause. And for the first time, something changed in her expression. Not fear. Not weakness. Something uncertain. "Because," she said slowly, "you are the variable." They secured her in the command chamber. Or at least they pretended to. Truth was, if she wanted to break free, she could. Everyone knew it, which made the silence heavier. Elias stood across from her, arms crossed. "Start talking." Sareth sat, not bound, but still, and studied him. "You are not what we expected," she said. "Yeah? What did you expect?" "A species driven by chaos. Emotion without restraint. Violence without purpose." Elias smirked faintly. "Sounds about right." "But you," she continued, ignoring the remark, "do not align with that pattern." "I'm not special." Her gaze sharpened. "You are." "Why?" She leaned forward slightly. "Because you hesitate." Elias frowned. "That's your big revelation?" "Yes." "That I don't shoot everything that moves?" "That you could have killed me," she said, "and chose not to." He exhaled slowly. "You surrendered. That has never mattered before." The words hung in the air. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Elias felt something shift inside him. You're saying humans kill surrendering enemies? I am saying, Sereth replied, that your species has done so before. Repeatedly. He didn't answer. Because she wasn't wrong. Hours passed. Or what felt like hours. Time aboard a Kelry ship didn't flow the same way. The lighting adjusted in subtle pulses, and the hum of the vessel created an almost hypnotic rhythm. Elias stayed. The others rotated out. But he stayed. Tell me something, he said finally. Why kneel? Sereth's gaze drifted, as if recalling something distant. Among my kind, she said, kneeling is not submission. Then what is it? A recognition. Of what? She looked back at him. Of inevitability. Elias let out a dry laugh. You're saying I'm inevitable? No, she said quietly. I am. That wiped the smile off his face. Then explain. There is a convergence, she said. A point where all possible outcomes collapse into one. Sounds like philosophy. It is mathematics. Elias shook his head. You're losing me. Her voice softened. I have seen the end of this war. He went still. And we lose. The words didn't make sense. They couldn't. You've wiped out half our colonies, Elias said. Your fleet outnumbers ours 5-1. Yes. You have weapons we don't even understand. Yes. And you're telling me you lose? Yes. Elias stared at her. You expect me to believe that? No. Then why say it? Because it is true. He paced for a moment, running a hand through his hair. All right, he said finally. Let's say I believe you. She tilted her head slightly. What happens? Sereth's expression shifted again. Subtle, but unmistakable. There is a moment, she said. A decision. Whose? She held his gaze. Yours. The realization hit him like a physical blow. No, Elias said immediately. No, that's not how this works. It is. I'm a field commander. I don't decide wars. You decide this one. He shook his head. You're wrong. I am never wrong. Then this is your first time? Silence. Then, would you like to see? She asked. Elias hesitated. Every instinct screamed at him to refuse. This was manipulation. A trick. A trap. And yet, what do you mean, see? Sereth stood slowly. For a moment, she said, I can show you. Show me what? The end. It started with a touch. Her fingers barely brushed his temple. And suddenly, everything changed. He stood on a battlefield. Earth. Or what was left of it. The sky burned. Cities lay in ruins. The air tasted like ash. In the distance, massive Kelry's war forms marched across the landscape, their silhouettes blotting out the horizon. Humans fought. And died. Elias turned and saw himself, older, wounded, standing at the center of it all, a weapon in his hand, a choice before him. And then, the vision shifted. The battlefield vanished, replaced by something else. A chamber, a throne, and Sereth, kneeling, again, before him. But this time, there was blood. And behind her, silence. No war. No destruction. Just stillness. Peace. Elias staggered back, gasping. The chamber snapped back into reality. He collapsed against a console, heart pounding. What was that? The future, Sereth said softly. He looked at her, eyes wide. That's not possible. It is. You're lying. I am not. Then explain it. Her voice dropped. You must choose. Choose what? Which future becomes real? Elias felt something crack inside him. This is insane. Yes. I'm not some chosen one.
No.
Then why me? Sereth stepped closer. Because you hesitate. He let out a bitter laugh. That again. Yes. Why does that matter so much? Her answer came without hesitation. Because hesitation is the space where change exists. The room felt smaller. The air heavier. Elias looked at her, really looked, at the being who had led fleets, destroyed worlds. And now, she knelt, not out of weakness, but certainty. You said there's a moment, he said slowly. Yes. This is it, isn't it? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Harris's voice crackled over the comm. Commander, we've got incoming signals. Enemy reinforcements, fast. Elias closed his eyes. Of course. The moment. It was here. He opened them again. Looked at Sereth. Tell me the truth, he said. I always have. If I let you live, if I trust you, what happens? She held his gaze. Everything changes. And if I don't? Her voice was almost a whisper. Everything ends. Elias raised his weapon, aimed it at her. His finger rested on the trigger. Behind him, alarms began to sound. The ship trembled as distant impacts echoed through its structure. Time was running out. Give me one reason, he said, not to pull this trigger. Sereth didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't plead. She simply looked at him and said, Because I chose you. The words hit harder than any weapon, not because of what they meant, but because of how she said them, not as a tactic, not as manipulation, but as truth. Elias felt his grip tighten, then loosen. Then, he lowered the weapon. The alarms grew louder. Harris burst into the chamber. Commander, we need to move, now. Elias didn't look away from Sereth. Stand up, he said.
She did.
Slowly, gracefully, as if she had never been kneeling at all. What are you doing? Harris demanded. Elias turned. Ending the war. The choice had been made. Not with certainty, not with confidence, but with something far more dangerous.
Hope.
Ending of the story. The reinforcements arrived within minutes, sleek Kelry's ships surrounding the vessel like predators closing in. But they did not fire. They waited, because Sereth Kale stood at the center of the command chamber and gave a single command. Stand down. Across the fleet, weapons powered down. Across the battlefield, forces halted. Confusion spread through both sides.
Human.
Kelry's. No one understood, except Elias. He stood beside her, watching as the impossible unfolded. You said this would happen, he murmured. Yes. And now? Sereth looked at him. For the first time, there was something unmistakably human in her expression. Uncertainty. Now, she said, we see if you were right to choose. Elias exhaled slowly. Was I? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she turned toward the viewport, where two fleets, once enemies, now hung in silent standoff. Then, quietly, you will be. In the years that followed, history would remember that moment not as a victory, not as a defeat, but as a turning point. The day an alien fell before a human, and the human chose not to conquer, but to believe. And in that fragile, uncertain belief, two civilizations found something neither had ever known before. A future they didn't have to fight for, but could build. Together.